Dr. Curry. You know, Dr. Curry's been more active on social media. All right, so this is like a million pages long, and let's start off with Elaine argument on Depp about AH arrest. So, Team Johnny Depp wanted to include the arrest. So if you guys may or may not know, Amber Heard was, I think she was arrested because she was arrested, she was detained, and apparently she spent like a night in jail. As you guys may or may not know, she was arrested because her and her ex-girlfriend, I don't know if it's pronounced Tasia or Tasha, they were arguing at the airport, and apparently things started getting a little bit physical, and people saw, and the cops came and took her ass to jail. But yeah, the Depp team wanted to include that. Elaine was like, no, we can't include that. It's irrelevant. But let me see if we can get there, because I think we do get more information about it. First, Mr. Depp seeks to introduce evidence related to an arrest at Seattle Tacoma in King County, Washington in 2009. Do y'all remember where you were in 2009? Where Ms. Heard was arrested and quickly released, and the charges, assault. Ms. Heard grabbed her partner's wrist to get her attention when the rental bus was leaving, were dropped, and the arrest record was later expunged. I believe I remember correctly, she had it expunged shortly after she started dating JD, I think. Which makes sense, because if you're dating someone famous, obviously the media people, they're going to start digging through records and be like, who the hell is this person? Let me see if I can find any dirt in this person. So it makes sense that she had it expunged. It is undisputed that no criminal charges were ever brought against Ms. Heard in King County, let alone resulting conviction. Therefore, evidence, testimony, or reference to this arrest or allegedly underlying alleged conduct are inadmissible pursuant to Also, the details of the underlying these charges may not be elicited by Mr. Depp at trial. The information is also not relevant to the issues in the cause, and the risk of prejudice far outweighs the probative value. So I'm assuming that didn't happen, because we ended up having the airport. I don't know what her proper title was, but I think it was like an airport police or airport security officer who testified. And yeah, if you guys remember, it was like a video testimony. It's really short though. Yeah, join the Discord. So you guys already know about the Australia stuff. I think there's been a lot of YouTube videos about that, so I'm not really going to read this part. But basically, Johnny Depp wanted to talk about how he said that Amber Heard allegedly lied about. Wait, is this about the Australian the dog thing, right? Yeah, that shit was pretty. That is messy too. I know Australia apparently is investigating Amber Heard right now, and I don't know if they're investigating Johnny Depp too. Like, I don't know if he's going to be like tied into that, but we will see. This talks about the UK with, this is so messy. So this wasn't really covered in the US trial. This is mostly in the UK trial in regards to what happened after they were caught bringing the dogs into Australia, blaming it on Kate James. And then Kate James was like, well, I wasn't even employed with y'all, and then you're lying. And then about Samantha Macmillan, I think. Yeah, oh man, this is like the immigration deportation stuff. Like, this is some other stuff. I might have briefly covered it in one of my videos previously, but yeah, I don't know. That's just like a whole nother mess. I don't know if y'all want to, it's a whole nother thing. But let's keep going. We have a lot of pages here. So this is a transcript from Auscript Australia. Sorry, it's, so this is, I guess like a hearing in Australia. The bench. Okay, just before we start, I think how I dealt with the exhibits is probably not correct. So what I might do, Mr. Kirk, do you wish to read and follow the affidavit of Ms. Heard so that, Mr. Kirk, yes. Bench. Can become a document of the court. Mr. Kirk, I do, Your Honor. Bench. That then would leave the USB sticker as exhibit, unidentified speaker. It's 1. Bench. 1, or is it, that was 2, wasn't it? Unidentified speaker. It was 1. Bench. What was, it was 1, and the references, exhibit 2, and the rest of the documents would be documents of the court. Mr. Callahan. Thank you, Your Honor. Bench. Am I correct? Mr. Callahan. I have no issues with that. Bench. Yes, that's how we divided up. So that's the rest of the documents. It just became the documents of the court. Mr. Callahan. Yes. Mr. Kirk. Says something indistinct. Bench. Okay. All right. Okay. First of all, Ms. Heard, normally, I would deal with this with you. Standing, but I've got a bit to say. So please be seated. I intend to deal with this through pursuant to Section 19B of the Crimes Act, but I need to put some words on tape. Okay. So, first of all, Ms. Heard has pleaded guilty to producing a document to the Australian Customs that was false. On the 28th of August 2014, both dogs were issued with certificates of vaccinations for rabies by a Dr. Hebert from the Animal Hospital in the USA. On the 28th of October 2014, both dogs were examined at the same animal hospital concerning the follow-up of the test for travel, and that was to travel to Australia. On the 26th of November 2014, declarations were issued for both dogs indicating rabies vaccinations were current. On the 21st of April 2015, a private plane arrived at the Brisbane airport and was met by quarantine and customs officers. So this is like a month and a couple of weeks after the whole finger incident in Australia. Ms. Heard was on the board that plane and as were the dogs. Ms. Heard completed an incoming passenger card, and in response to the question on that card, are you bringing into Australia animals, parts of animal, etc.? Ms. Heard answered no. That answer was false. So in the UK trial, I think I've already talked about this in another video, but in the UK trial, they're like, why would you answer no? And she was like, well, typically, when you declare an animal, there's a separate paperwork for it. And they're like, yeah, so why did you say no on this paperwork? And she's like, well, this isn't the paperwork where you declare the animals. It's like, yeah, but the question says, are you bringing in an animal? And she's like, well, this is not the paperwork that I usually fill up. There's a separate paperwork. And the person was like, well, why wouldn't you just say yes to this one and then get the fucking proper paperwork? Sorry, not that word for word, but that was during the UK trial. It was really funny to see her try to explain herself out of that one. It was not good. No bueno. Rain says, Australia's been concerned about dogs when Amber was the most dangerous thing on the plane. Yikes. I wish Johnny sent her to jail after Australia, but he actually loved her. It's so sad. Yeah. I don't know. It's tough. It's tough when you're in a relationship with someone that's like, the A word, right? Because sometimes you think it's your fault, or sometimes you minimize it, or sometimes you think that they can change. So, yeah, it's tough. It's kind of funny to watch her talk herself into a massive gaping hole into her own story. Yep. That's why the transcripts are so funny, because it's all there. It's there forever. It'll always be referenced. You can always reference to the lies and stuff like that. So Ms. Heard answered no. The answer was false. It is acknowledged that Ms. Heard has routinely complied with customs and quarantine requirements for the travel around the world when traveling with her dogs. And there has been, on some occasions, required her to change travel plans when those requirements have not met in time. On the 12th of May 2015, the principal vet officer for the veterinary officer for the Department of Agriculture was contacted by a person who identified himself as an employee of Ms. Heard's husband. Did she have employees of her own at that time? Did she? I don't know if she did or not. I don't know. He has been instructed to contact the department following issues raised in the media with regard to the dog's presence in Australia. The media coverage alerted Ms. Heard and her husband to the potential issues regarding documentation relating to the dogs. And what's mind-blowing was that she let someone take the dogs to the vet, or not the vet, the groomers. Those dogs don't need to be groomed, okay? If you're going to like another country and you're sneaking them in, you don't need to groom it. Grooming is not necessary. So it's just nonsense. Department were provided with veterinary records for both dogs and were advised the dogs were available for inspection. The dogs had been isolated and had not been in contact with any other animals. On the 13th of May 2015, the principal veterinary officer attended an address where he examined the two dogs and confirmed that each dog microchip matched their veterinary records. The dogs were healthy, showing no signs of illness or disease. There were no permits issued by the Departments of Quarantine allowing the importation of those dogs into Australia. On the 13th of May 2015, both dogs were ordered into quarantine. The direction were issued where they've been re-exported within 72 hours. So the reason why I thought this part was really important right here, this document, was because I wanted to know what was the exact question that she was asked. I was like, well, maybe the question was vague, maybe it was confusing, but it literally says, are you bringing into Australia animals, parts of animals, etc.? So that is just straight, upright, like fucking lie. Lisette says, not to defend Amber, but did the groomer just narc them out for no reason? From my understanding, the groomers were really excited to be grooming Johnny Depp's dogs. So they took a picture and maybe they posted on social media. And then when I think someone on Johnny's team realized that it was out there, they were probably like, oh, fuck. Well, Amber brought them in illegally, so we should probably be proactive and be like, hey, by the way, like, let me contact the office of blah, 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 blah. So I don't think that the groomers maliciously were like, trying to report them. I think they were just really excited that they were grooming Johnny Depp's dog and they posted it. So I remember correctly. Oh god, sorry, my neck is like, whew. That was a nice crack though. There were no permits issued by the Director of Quarantine allowing the importation of those dogs into Australia. On the 13th of May, 2015, both dogs were ordered into quarantine and direction was issued that they be re-exported within 72 hours. On the 15th of May, 2015, both dogs were taken from Australia. Okay. Do we need to read the rest of this? I guess we could. Let's do it. On the 13th of October, 2015, Ms. Heard provided an unsworn statement. Oh, should I zoom in? Whoops. I forgot to zoom in. My bad, guys. Remind me to zoom in. To the prosecution regarding her action and state of mind relevant to the offense. And on the 3rd of November 2015, there was indication that she would plead to the charge that she made the false statement on the basis that the 2 other charges were discontinued. This has, in effect, occurred today and is clearly a timely plea. There has been a number of references placed before the court, and I wouldn't go into them, but clearly all of them speak of Ms. Heard's generosity, commitment, and kindness, and these indicate that she's not just another celebrity on a charity bandwagon. If I can put it that way. She is clearly a good person, and these people speak highly of her. She has been involved in many charitable causes in a very active way and has been for a very long time. Certainly since her teens. I do take that into account. I don't know. Amber Heard says she volunteered at a soup kitchen when she was like a teen, but I don't know if that's true or not, right? Because she'd be lying about the charity and stuff. So I don't know, man. I think she also said that she volunteered at the children's hospital like 4 days a week. But why do we have no pictures of that? Are there pictures of it out there that I don't know about? And I think someone at the hospital were like, I haven't seen Amber Heard. So I don't know. Maybe, I don't know. I'm just a little bit sus when I hear stuff like that. On the facts relating to the matter of all the times Ms. Heard's departure for Australia in April 2015, Ms. Heard was unaware the documentation of the dog's importation into Australia had not been complete. She relied on staff to organize that along with her other travel arrangements. Just prior to Ms. Heard leaving for Australia, her assistant, one of the staff responsible for the documentation, had been dismissed. Well, this is Kate James, by the way. Kate James hates Amber Heard. Has been dismissed from employment in acrimonious circumstances. There were difficulties associated with this and the repercussions on the preparation of the documentation concerning the importation of the dogs. So I'm going to be very nitpicky here because this is basically what Amber Heard said. Amber Heard said that she thought the dogs can travel because she thought Kate James, the assistant that she fired, had done all the documentations and they were completed. Okay? That's what she said. However, we have emails from Stephen Deuters where Stephen Deuters was like, you can't bring the dogs. You don't have the paperwork. Do you want to bring them cargo? She said, no cargo. He's like, okay, so we're not bringing the dogs. And she's like, yeah, if there's nothing else you can do, then that's what it is. But she ended up bringing the dogs anyways. And then the other thing to nitpick on is that if she thought that Kate James had completed all the documentation, why would she answer no to this question? Wouldn't she answer yes? Right? It just doesn't make sense. So it contradicts. Her story contradicts her actions because if she thought Kate James did all the documentation, then she would have been like, oh, yes, I am bringing dogs into Australia. She wouldn't have hit that fact. But I know that like her excuse for that was like, oh yeah, I was just really tired and I was confused. And then later on, I think her other excuse was like, well, there's supposed to be another documentation that I'm supposed to fill, not this one. So it's kind of like BSy answers. But, you know, she didn't want to get in trouble and she had to do everything that she can to stay out of trouble. So this is the other explanation that did not make sense to me. Further to this, Ms. Heard had a belief that at the time of arriving, that the form she filled out did not cover her pets. She believed that irrelevant paperwork had been completed for the dogs and provided the Australian authorities separately. I accept that she did not set out to deliberately deceive the Australian authorities. I also accept that it's not a question of person believing she's above the law. Yeah, I don't know. I just don't buy it, I guess. But I think the reason why I don't buy it now is because we've known that she's lied about so many other things. If this was the only thing that came to my desk, I don't know. Maybe I would have believed her. Maybe. If I really, 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 really want to give her the benefit of the doubt, right? But yeah. I just don't believe her now because we know all the other stuff about her. Further to this, Ms. Heard has a belief that at the time of their arriving, the form she filled out, I read that, sorry. In her pleading guilty, she accepts her responsibility for the offense. Her actions indicated she is truly remorseful for incorrectly filling out the form. It has been submitted by Mr. Kirk that this ought to be dealt with pursuant to Section 19B of the Crimes Act, and no one cares about that. First of all, I say that at the offset, this is not a trivial offense. Ms. Heard comes before the court without any criminal history. A reference provided speak of her generosity and kindness. As I've already spoken about, she's so generous, she's so kind. She's employed as an actor, and this requires a great deal of international travel. Sometimes she travels with her dogs, sometimes not. She's always complied with the various rules and regulations concerning such travel. She's no doubt a conviction. Oh, no doubt a conviction being recorded will have an effect on her ability to travel. The third factor concerning whether or not I ought to consider dealing with the pursuant to Section 19B, the extent of which the offense was committed under extenuating circumstances. The defense admits that the extenuating circumstances under which this offense was committed included her belief that she was not required to declare the dogs, and this belief was based on her previous experience in traveling with her dogs. Oh, it's because during this time they didn't have access to the Stephen Deuter's emails because the Stephen Deuter's emails contradict all of this. Most of this. Also, her belief that her staff had dealt with all the documentation required for the dogs. Yep, Stephen Deuter's contradicts all of that. Given the amount of travel that Ms. Heard is required to do and her reliance on staff, it's not unsurprising. I do not accept that this offense was committed under extenuating circumstances. It's quite deliberately not drawn reference to the fact that she was tired because people traveling in and out of Australia are tired. It's a long way. So does that mean that, like, if I go into another country and I bring shit with me and I just, like, declare it incorrectly, I'm just be like, oh, I was tired. Traveling to Australia is so tiring. So does that mean that we all get to get the free pass as well for fucking up on our papers? We're a long way from anywhere except New Zealand. I find that given Ms. Heard's character and antecedents and the fact that this offense was committed under extenuating circumstances, that I ought to consider whether or not it was inexpedient to inflict any punishment or any punishment other than a nominal punishment on Ms. Heard. And okay, I don't know if I care about that part. So they said that I've had a regard to all the circumstances in this case. There's genuine remorse and a high degree of cooperation. Ms. Heard also returned to this country to have a matter dealt with her and her husband. May have provided a video with regards to not making a false declaration. This video no doubt would be quite useful for the department. That video was not, I don't know if it was useful for the department. It was just really fucking weird and creepy. That apology video that they did and like declare everything. Australia is a beautiful country. I love Australia. I don't know. It's a creepy video. The messages and the emails about the paperwork for Australia show she was lying. Yep. A conviction being recorded will have a very real effect on Ms. Heard's ability to travel for her work. The case is cited from prosecution, where it's desirable that the countries be aware convictions be recorded are not relevant in this case. Ms. Heard has never before deliberately flouted the laws of any country regarding the importation of her pets, and these were extenuating circumstances, as I have said. I have no doubt that this whole matter has been a real impact on Ms. Heard, and given the level of public scrutiny both she and her husband have been subject to, I find that a personal deterrence is not a factor, and that I really give consideration to that because there's no doubt in my mind that this won't happen again. With regards to general deterrence, I think quite frankly, the department's better off using that video that's been provided by Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard with regards to not making any false declaration and the real impact they can have on this country. That saw far more benefit to this country than anything else I may do with regards to recording and conviction with Ms. Heard. That video was nonsense. So therefore, I'll be dealing with it as said pursuant to 19B of the Crimes Act. Bench. Yes, Mr. Callahan. Does Your Honor require any assistance with the order? There is a pro forma, if that's any of use to you. Bench. Absolutely. Be used to my assistant. Mr. Callahan. Thank you. Bench. Thank you. Okay, stand up, Ms. Heard. Pursuant to blah, 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 the charges against you is proven. However, by order, I release you without proceeding to conviction upon you giving security by recognizance in the sum of 1,000. Condition that you be of good behavior for a period of 1 month. The purpose and the effect of the order is that you must be in good behavior for 1 month and not commit any further offenses. If you do, you could be called upon to pay the $1,000. There's no conviction recorded, so what I'm going to do is ask for the court to be cleared. Ms. Heard, if you can remain, please, my assistant will deal with the paperwork, and that the dealt with very shortly. So if the court could please, if everyone can clear the courtroom, so it can be dealt with, I adjourn the court. All right, so that's Australia stuff.